Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michelle Siqueiros. I'm president of the Campaign for College Opportunity. I'm really honored to welcome all of you to this beautiful space that happens to be in my neighborhood. And I want to welcome everybody that's joining us online. We are live streaming this across the state, and I got a note from DC from friends that said they would be tuning in and watching, so we say hello to all of them. So today we have the privilege of conversing with the new incoming chancellor of the California Community College System, Eloy Ortiz Oakley. "12 years ago, the civil rights, business, and education community came together and co-founded the Campaign for College Opportunity. Their unlikely alliance was proof that even when many issues may divide us politically, the economic and social importance of education and educating our own Californians, our citizens, in order to strengthen our economy and build a good workforce in California is a uniting cause. I think as many of you know, the Campaign for College Opportunity has championed the importance of public colleges and universities. It has fought for funding for our campuses, as much as it has also fought the college campuses themselves, urging them to do a better job at serving all of our students. We've brought needed attention to sending more students in California to college, and just as importantly, needed attention to making sure that when they get to college, they actually graduate. We've highlighted unacceptable gaps in success for our underrepresented students, an inequality in higher education that threatens our future, given the diversity of our population here in California. We've also championed reforms that have strengthened transfer from community colleges to our four-year public universities. We've championed funding for our colleges and universities. We've promoted student success and are helping to fix the remedial education challenge facing our state. California is certainly moving in the right direction, and this movement is truly reflected in the bold selection of Eloy Oakley by the California Community College Board of Governors as its next chancellor. Eloy represents the promise and hope we have for strengthening our community colleges and ensuring that all students have an equal shot to succeed and earn a degree, a certificate, or transfer. Before we begin our conversation with incoming Chancellor Eloy Oakley, I'd like to remind you that you can submit questions here in person or via Twitter and Facebook to our Senior Vice President, Audrey Dow, who will facilitate the Q&A later on. I'm really proud to introduce one of our advisory board members, Felix Ortiz III. He is the CEO and founder of Veritas Learning and a veteran of the U.S. Army who served in the JAG Corps. Veritas Learning is a company that was founded really by its inspiration to strengthen our workforce by connecting job seekers with the skills they need to be successful in the workforce. I'm grateful to Veritas for their support of our reception tonight, so join me in welcoming Felix Ortiz III.
Yeah, I have to say Eloy's the better looking one and the better paratrooper. I'm actually a former paratrooper, and so is Eloy. Obviously I look like a college student still, but I'm about 4 or 5 years ago, right? I met Michelle through a mutual friend, Henry Ramos. At that time, we had just started Veritas, and we're thinking about how do we create technologies that can help impact and move forward the workforce and match people like myself that are veterans and Eloy into employment. And having met Michelle and looking into her eyes, I never thought I could meet a stronger, fierce leader than her. And the work that she does is so critical for students that are Latino community college students that I followed her success and was so inspired to join and lucky enough to join her advisory board. Then she introduced me to, at the time, President Oakley. And when I first met him, I was like, man, I think we might be related. He's as smart as I am, probably smarter. I cannot imagine, California being so lucky to have a true champion and leader of not only understands technology, but innovation. I've met many chancellors in my short life, and many college presidents. And as a veteran, I was attached to a unit that was tied to a Delta Force unit, so we read, body language very well. And when I first met Eloy and saw the energy that he has, the ambition, the fact that he understands business, industry, and education, how all those parties together can work to create strong employment triangles, and obviously California being the biggest state, I knew that one day he's actually going to become Secretary of Education. In fact, I always tell him that, of the United States, by the way. And as a young Latino, I think he's a role model for people like myself and others who, unfortunately, in our communities, do not see great inspirational figures. And we have other people like Senator Flores here and other individuals that are strong people of role model like. So in closing, I want to say I also grew up in a political family. My grandfather was a governor. My dad is Assistant Speaker of the House of the State Assembly of New York. I'm half Mexican, half Puerto Rican. Having grown up in New York, you get called the perfect bean because you get to try all the beans. But politicians often focus on themselves and how they can get reelected, and that's not true leadership. True leadership are CEOs that challenge the status quo, their boards, and can actually bring in innovative solutions, whether their staff or their executive team may think that that may not be the answer. And I think that's what Eloy defines himself as. He's a person that's willing to challenge it, can see vision and have foresight, and that's a pretty important tool to be successful, not just in academia, but in business and in today's Trump economy, whether we like it or not. It's a big focus on infrastructure development, which is critical for our community colleges to be sustained and move forward and tied to work with businesses. So, Eloy, I wish you the best. I have no doubt that you'll make the Ortiz clan proud and the 82nd 18th Airborne Corps prouder. So, congratulations.
I'm Gary Hart. I'm one of the board members of the Campaign for College Opportunity. Delighted to be here from Sacramento. I'm vice chair of the campaign, and I have the honor, the assignment to do very brief introductions of our two discussants here this afternoon. I'm going to start with Eloy, who doesn't need an introduction, but Eloy, you're going to get one anyway, but it's going to be brief. Felix already made reference to the veteran status of Eloy. I want to focus just a second on education. He's a proud graduate of Golden West Community College. He also has both undergraduate and graduate degrees from UC Irvine. And for almost the last decade, he's served with great distinction as the president of Long Beach City College, where he's really focused on equity issues and a student-centered curriculum and an environment that's really supportive of student opportunity and student success. It's been a great run for Eloy, and we're sad to lose him in Long Beach, but of course he's going to be going on to statewide responsibilities. I want to say just another quick thing about Eloy is that he's not one of those silo guys. His world is not limited to community colleges. He views partnerships not as a burden or even a responsibility, but as an opportunity. Whether it's the Long Beach College Promise, which he helped develop and implement, that provides opportunities for very young children all the way through the college in the Long Beach area. It's an exemplary partnership. He also was recently, a couple of years ago, appointed to the Board of Regents by Governor Brown. And his presence on the Board of Regents is unusual to have someone from a community college leadership position on the board. And I think his perspective will lend a breath of fresh air and already has to the Regents. I also just want to say a word. I would be remiss if I didn't also mention that Eloy has served with us on the board of the Campaign for College Opportunity for a number of years. Michelle made reference to some of our accomplishments, particularly in the community college area of transfer and basic skills reform, the Student Success Task Force, and we're very proud of all of that. But I have to say, With Eloy's expertise and his advocacy and his political acumen, I don't think we would have had nearly as much success if it weren't for Eloy's leadership on the board. So Eloy, thank you so much, and our very best wishes to you as you move forward to your new responsibilities.
Okay.
Larry Gordon, who is our other discussant this afternoon. Larry is an East Coast guy, but he's been here in California for a long time. He's a graduate of both Georgetown and Columbia School of Journalism. But we know him here in California for his long and outstanding work on higher education issues, first with the Los Angeles Times, and now with EdSource, where he serves as senior correspondent. I was just checking out a couple of his blogs and recent articles, and the whole issue of immigration and DACA is some fascinating, informative, and compelling articles that he's written just recently. I want to just say in conclusion, thinking about Larry's outstanding work, that if, God forbid, there were ever a bill introduced in the legislature requiring journalistic term limits, Larry would be Exhibit A as to why that's not a good idea. So, Larry, I'm going to turn the program over to you, and we're looking forward to your conversation with Eloy.
Great, thank you. Well, before we get started, I just want to remind everybody in the audience, if you have any questions, please fill out your card and pass them down the aisle to Audrey and other staff members. They'll be picking them up, and we'll be sharing the questions with everybody a little later. So, just to get started here, I just wanted to tell everybody that Chancellor Designate Oakley still has about 10 days left before he takes office, so we hope that he is still in the mode of not yet speaking from the throne, so he'll feel looser. We're not quite asking for him to be tweeting from a tower at 4 a.m., but somebody else that we know is getting ready to take the throne. So just to start out, I wanted to talk about the whole system. The community college system, if it can be called that, is so gigantic. It's 113 colleges, 2 million students, more than 70 districts, but it's not really a unified system. It's not really like University of California or the CSU. You won't have the authority that Janet Napolitano has at UC, or that Tim White has at Cal State. So what do you see the job as, and what type of authority do you really have compared to those other systems?
Well, Larry, first of all, I think if you'd asked Janet or Tim, they'd probably wonder where all that authority is anyway. But, the California Community Colleges are a loose confederation of 72 districts. I think that's the best way to describe it. Focused really on an overlying mission to serve Californians and to serve the top 100% of students who come through our doors. I think that's what unifies us. I think fundamentally the mission unifies us. And so, yes, there are 72 independently governed districts, and at times that creates a strain on the system in terms of unifying around a particular vision or direction. But I think that the system can be strengthened through a stronger, more robust Chancellor's office. And I think working with the Board of Governors, I think that's our intention, is to really bring a little bit more strength to the central office, still honoring and ensuring that local control is what's best, because I think that's what sets us aside from the UC or the CSU. Our campuses are situated in a way that they know best how to serve their community, and they're given the freedom to do that. And I think that is what makes the community colleges special. And I think that's what we're going to try to enhance. At the same time, try to bring some vision for the entire system to bear.
Do you need any extra legislation or anything like that? Or you seek any to get more authority to be able to bring some more order to the system?
I think at this point, no. I think at this point there is enough authority with the Board of Governors, enough authority with the bully pulpit that the Chancellor's office has. We are the conduit to the legislature, the governor. So I think that there is enough authority there. The issue is, can we leverage the 72 districts, the strength of the 72 districts behind a unifying vision? And I think we can do that.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit personally right now before we go on to the more specifics about the system. You went from the military to the community college to UC Irvine. What was it in your life that drew you into a career in education? And was there a particular person, a mentor or mentors that you could go back and remember?
Well, there are many people along the way, but I mean, it's primarily fate. I mean, I never set out or planned to do anything that I'm doing today. Out of high school, I wasted a lot of opportunities to go to school right out of high school. I wound up in the military, which is a choice that I think was the perfect choice for me at the time. And it gave me the opportunities I have today. But really, it was just a matter of stumbling upon the California Community College system and taking the chance, going to school at Golden West College, and really finding my way from there. I never thought I'd go to the University of California before I went to Golden West College. As a matter of fact, my high school counselor recommended that I not even consider the University of California, although she's probably rolling over in her grave right now that I'm a regent. But
that's the best revenge.
Yes, rest in peace, Sister Marguerite. But nonetheless, it was really the opportunity that Golden West College gave me to really think about the University of California as a real option. And why? Because they had a very clear roadmap on how to get me to the University of California. And that's the roadmap I followed. And once I was on that road, I just realized how great it was to be at the community colleges. And really it fit me. And then I found mentors along the way. Gene Farrell, my first boss at the Coast Community College District, really gave me opportunities to take on leadership roles. And it was through the combined confidence that people expressed in me that I was really convinced to stay in the system and just continue pushing along.
So just to get back to, was it Sister Margarita? Was it that moment that do you think about that no you can't moment? I mean, does that come into your mind when you think about a lot of students out there who may be told that or think that?
Well, my experience is no different than the millions of Californians who were in the same boat that I was. I've been told a lot of times I can't do something. And certainly that was a moment that sticks in my mind. But I had opportunities right out of high school. I actually had an opportunity to go to Pitzer College, Michelle's alma mater, and I was actually enrolled. I was on the football team. But the first day of class, I chose not to go because I didn't know how to navigate higher education, and I didn't know how I was going to pay for my 4 years at Pitzer College. So I just stopped, and there was nobody there to tell me, that's a stupid decision, Eloy. This is how you do it. There are millions of students just like me who have that same thing happen to them. One moment in time, and they just completely leave that dream behind. That's what I hope we can continue to change. That opportunity that was lost for me, that sticks with me every single day that I come to work.
Okay, good. Well, segueing to students who may have their dreams frustrated, I've written a lot about this, and many other people have as well, the whole idea of community college students being stuck in developmental or remedial courses. I've talked to a lot of students, they almost describe it as being a kind of a circle of hell that they can't climb out of. And they start at 4 levels below, they get part way up, they can't get out of it. And I know that when you were in Long Beach, you adopted multiple measures to place some of the students in assessing them in different courses that it might not have to go directly into level 4. But what other changes do you think that the state needs to take so that students can progress more efficiently or maybe not start quite as low? Right. It just seems to be that is just the barrier for so many students.
It's a huge barrier, and there are many reasons for that barrier, some having to do with the way we're structured, some having to do with our relationship with K-12, and some having to do with just society and the nature of the conditions that many of our students are struggling to get through. So we have to tackle it from all angles. Specifically with the community colleges, one of the main reasons that we put students in remedial courses is because we apply standardized tests to students as they come to community college, regardless of how well they did in high school. I mean, unless they test out very high on AP exams, we put students through standardized tests to determine where they should be placed. So that's where that friction starts to begin is, we build systems on a lack of trust. We don't trust the faculty downstream to give us consistency in higher education. And that's true not only for community colleges, but the CSU, the UC, that continues on up. So I think one of the first challenges is we need better alignment. We need to understand what is in the curriculum at K-12, and we have a great opportunity right now with the work that the State Board of Education is doing through Common Core implementation, the Smarter Balanced Assessment. There's a lot of work being done in K-12 to ensure that consistency out of high school. So we need to do a better job of assessing college readiness before we have to apply a test. And then we need to make better use of the senior year of high school. There's a lot of things we can do through concurrent enrollment, dual enrollment, to really get students with some college credit by the time they get out of high school. We need to reconceive the way that we're organized. We're organized in a way where, life in K-12 ends at the 12th grade. Well, the economy is not organized like that anymore. Students don't see themselves like that anymore. So why do we continue to be organized like that? We need to blur the lines between high school and higher education, because the reality today is that every student needs some sort of college credential to survive in today's economy, and it's only going to get worse. So this challenge really begins with how we look at students from day one, how we communicate to them what the expectations are to go to college, and how we prepare them to be college and career ready. And that job just doesn't begin the day the student hits a community college campus. It begins by working with CSU, UC, and your K-12 partners to communicate the right things to students, make sure that if it's A through G, that A through G courses are available to every student, and then we're helping them be college and career ready by the time they hit our doorstep.
But once you have them, though, what do you think about changing the actual offerings in the remedial courses? I mean, I've heard there are many courses now that both are credit-bearing but have an added section that you have to take remedial. I mean, do you see more of those or anything specific?
Well, yes. I mean, given the reality that we are not going to fix the alignment in the near term, we have a lot of students that are still coming through that, for whatever reason, are not considered college ready. We have to do a much better job in terms of how we move those students along. The issue should be momentum for those students. We want to keep those students moving. We don't want them stuck in 2 to 3 years of remedial courses, because that's disastrous for them. I mean, the reality today is the students who begin in remedial courses, less than 10% of them will get a college credential. That's not only sad, that's disgusting. So we have to tackle the way that we're delivering that education to them and find ways to accelerate that and to get them to a credential faster. I think there are many models that have shown promise, not only in California, but throughout the country. I think we have to be more nimble in adopting some of those models. We have to be more willing to take more risk in our system and experiment with some of these models and really reconsider how we treat these students and how we get them to a place where they can get college level credits.
Can you mention any of those models? Is there any?
Sure. There's contextualized learning, there's accelerated remediation courses, there's technology that can be used to really move students 2 or 3 levels of English or math within 1 semester's time. And we have to also take a harder look at how we measure the competencies that these students need to demonstrate. The reality is, when students come to a remedial course, they don't need to begin from day one with high school algebra or high school English. They come with certain deficiencies. We have to have better tools to diagnose what that deficiency is and treat that deficiency at the same time that we're moving them through college level courses. There's been great success at many colleges throughout the country, whether that be Valencia College in Florida. There's great work being done at LaGuardia Community College in New York. Miami-Dade. There are great examples. And we have a lot of those examples in California. We just need to find a better way to get them embedded in our colleges and give them the opportunity to scale up.
Okay. Let's talk about the other end of the community college education, trying to transfer to UC and to CSU. The rates there have not been very impressive either in the past decades, and particularly for Latino and African American students. And what do you think is the roadblock? And what do you think about other changes? I know you've recently discussed these so-called guided pathways, and there's going to be an experiment with that. Can you explain that a little bit more and talk about other ways to try to get more students to transfer efficiently?
So there's two sort of issues that create a lot of this friction. One is the historical nature of our colleges. And it has only been until recently that we have been measuring transfer, talking about transfer as a vital part of the mission. There have been colleges throughout the system that have taken this on and have really benefited by increasing transfer. Santa Monica College is a great example. Pasadena College is a great example. But they saw a direct benefit because of their population and the relationship they had with USC and UCLA. So as a system, as a state, as a nation, we have not put pressure on our colleges to increase transfer. Now all of a sudden we're in an environment post-recession today that it has become increasingly more important, and lo and behold, now we have the data to show what's been going on all these years. So now we have to change the culture of the colleges, we have to change the culture of communities along the way, because students need to see themselves as college going as well. So that's one part of the issue. Guided pathways is a model in which we take out a lot of the choices that students have to make. If you consider my experience, I came from a family, like many of our students, where there was no one else in the household and really in the neighborhood that could help me understand what it meant to choose courses in college. It would be difficult for every student to sit down with a guidance counselor or a college counselor. Right. So we have to make that pathway more real for them. We have to limit the choice, and I say that not to say that students shouldn't have the opportunity to take as many classes as they want, but that shouldn't be the default. The default should be, if I want to be in healthcare, I have a very clear path of what it's going to take for me to get from point A to point B, whether that be transferring to the CSU or the University of California. That pathway shouldn't be a mystery to me, and we should organize ourselves around what those students are looking for. So that's what we're going to be working on as a system, although guided pathways has been something that's been going on in community colleges for quite some time. The associate's degree for transfer is a great example of a guided pathway, and that's shown great promise.
But at the same time, you could guide the students to the pathway, but the classes have to be available. Yes. And I mean, from what a lot of students complain that unless they register at 2 a.m. 2 weeks before, they can't get their classes. So.
Well, that's very true. So the Guided Pathways Initiative isn't just about creating these roadmaps. It's about reorganizing our colleges to match that expectation. So it's not just about changing student behavior. It's about changing organizational behavior. So we have to reimagine and redesign our colleges and really change the way we schedule classes, the way we align our courses, so that those classes can be made available. It's not going to be an easy task because many colleges are organized around some of the old principles that we use, and to change it means really changing the culture of our colleges. But I think it's possible. I think we've seen great examples of that in many of our colleges throughout the state.
Okay, good. Well, speaking of change, I wanted to talk about perhaps there's the carrot and the stick methods for forcing change. And a lot of students basically vote with their feet. In the LA region, we're lucky that we have so many colleges here, and it's no secret that students choose an unnamed college close to the beach as opposed to an unnamed college closer to the other side of the freeway. And because they know it has a good transfer record. Right. And so, but why aren't there more punishments or more sanctions or encouragements with a little stick behind them for community colleges to change? It seems like there aren't many. And
well, there haven't been, and really, our colleges respond to the incentives that are built into our system. One is that there's sort of this dispersed responsibility. There is no real central office. 72 districts are organized to try and serve the many, many missions that make up California Community Colleges, and funding per student really is still at a rate that is not acceptable. Given all that, though, we're funded based on the amount of students we can get into class. We're not funded on the number of students that come out of class. So there are behavioral issues. I mean, our community college system was created to really accomplish one goal: access. We've done a phenomenal job of that. We've done better than any other state in the nation. We now have to realign those incentives and look at ways not to punish colleges, but to give them the right incentive. If they can organize around the right incentive, I'm confident that our faculty, our staff, and our administrators will follow those incentives and do the right thing, because nobody comes to any of our 113 colleges with the intention of making it harder for students. We have very well-intentioned people who are coming to work every day because they care about our students. It's the way that we've organized the system and the way we've organized the incentives that leads to practices that don't, in the end, benefit our students.
There have been a couple of cases where the state has taken over a few community colleges, right? There was a case here about 5 years ago in LA County. I mean, and that was mainly for financial malfeasance. I mean, do you see any possibility of that happening again?
Well, I sure hope not. No, I mean, I think fortunately the last several years of budgets have been good to community colleges. I think the governor has been very fiscally prudent in the way that they've allocated resources to our colleges. So I'm hopeful that our colleges are in good fiscal stability, but certainly it's one of the responsibilities of the Chancellor's office to ensure that if there is a college that is trending in the wrong direction, that we step in and try to help that community turn that college around and make sure that it can serve its students.
Okay, good, thank you. You have the really good, and we are lucky to have you to do it. You have the good fortune to be both the Community College Chancellor and the University of California Regent, which gives you an eye on a lot of higher education in the state. When you look at both systems, do you ever think that maybe the state's master plan for higher education should be changed? There's been that traditional split of UC gets to pick off the top 12.5% of students, and Cal State gets to 33 1/3, and you guys get everybody who knocks on your door. So, I mean, do you ever, when you're at the Regents meeting, do you ever think that, oh, this is elitist and this is snobby, and the real world is where I'm working the rest of the time?
Well, first of all, I think California has benefited tremendously from the master plan that we have. The fact that we have 3 systems of higher education aimed at serving Californians, it's a great thing. Of course, the challenge we face is that today's California is very different than the California in which the master plan was developed.
Like 52 years ago.
52 years ago. And we as organizations that are part of the master plan need to continue to evolve with the changing times. So I think certainly that's a conversation happening in all 3 systems. How do we as the organizations who live under this master plan and honor the master plan change to meet the needs of today's California? That sometimes has been a challenge. Now, I think it's a wonderful division of labor between the 3 systems, and quite frankly, I believe that each of the 3 systems should own and cherish that part of the mission. I love the fact that California community colleges are the first, second, and third, and fourth chance for Californians, and that we open our arms to all 100% of students. That's a great thing. There's nothing wrong with that mission. The question becomes, how do we finance that mission within the context of the master plan, and how do we continue to look at the master plan to evolve it to meet the needs of students today and California today?
Just following up on that, do you think have you ever thought there should be some entrance exam to community college, or it should just be completely open door as it is?
I believe in students. I don't believe in entrance exams. So students want to come better themselves, then our colleges are going to be there to help them. And our challenge is working with our communities and our policymakers to ensure that the missions that California wants for its colleges are appropriately funded and that we have the latitude within regulation and law to get that job done.
Okay. In the past few weeks, there's been so much discussion about what could happen to our undocumented students here in California. You know, on the one hand, California has been extremely generous in providing Cal grants and in-state tuition to students that other states don't even let in the door. But the students here are really fearful, and I've done a number of interviews in the past few months. What could the community colleges do if there is truly a crackdown? You know, if the Trump administration comes in and really suspends or gets rid of DACA and starts deportation. I mean, what would the reaction be, and what could community colleges do?
Well, first of all, let me say that I think this is one of those periods of time when we should all be grateful that we live in California. Because I think California as a state has been very clear about the citizens of California, including the documented and undocumented. These are Californians as far as we're concerned. I've also been very proud that all three systems have had the same message. These are our students, and we're going to do everything possible to protect them and to give them the opportunity to come to our campuses and feel free to study, to learn without any fear. That is the bottom line principle, fundamental principle that all three of our systems have. And I know I speak for our Board of Governors, and that's the principle of California Community Colleges. So, you know, it's difficult to speculate on all the things that we would do, but what I can say is that we're also fortunate that the former Secretary of Homeland Security is in our system, and no one knows DACA better than she does. So as three systems, we're going to be working closely with all of our teams to determine all the options we have to protect our students. I'm confident that we will. And I'm confident that we'll have the support of the governor, the pro tem, the speaker, and everyone else.
And if the Washington administration asks for documents, they want to know how many students turn over the names of the students who have received Dreamer grants, what would your response be?
I have a feeling that the new Attorney General will be very supportive in helping us block that.
Right. Okay, good. One last thing before we go to questions from the audience, just a general, what do you see 2 weeks from now, what do you see as your biggest obstacles? Is it funding? Is it politics? Is it, is it?
Well, it's really all of the above, but really the biggest obstacle is, what we just talked about. We've just talked a lot about the various mechanical parts of the California Community College system and higher education in general. And we really have to move away from those sort of siloed discussions and focus on the main issue, our main mission. I saw a number yesterday, 13 million Californians live at or below the poverty level. If we took all those 13 million and created a state, it would be around the 6th or 7th largest state in the nation. That's the context in which we live in which we work in. And we have to translate what we do as community colleges in 113 communities to that reality. That's our mission. Helping people have much greater social and economic mobility, getting them back connected to the economy. Because what you've seen happen in the United States is happening in California. If you look at counties in the Inland Empire, in the Central Valley, throughout LA County, Imperial Valley, we are creating two California. And we, in the community colleges, have to see that as our direct mission to help improve, because nothing helps improve that better than education attainment. And so I think that's our primary mission, and the challenge will be really shifting the focus to that part of our mission and really getting in touch with the reality of our mission and how that manifests itself every day in our communities, in all 113 communities. And I think that California community colleges are in the best position to make a difference in those communities.
All right, well, thank you very much. We'll turn to questions from the audience now, and Audrey will be presenting them.
Thank you, Larry, thank you, Eloy. And we want to thank one of our sponsors that's here this evening, Wells Fargo Bank, for supporting us in this event tonight and for supporting the good work of the Campaign for College Opportunity. Eloy, one of the questions from the audience is, in K-12, teachers are held accountable for student success. Why does this seem to get away at community colleges, and what is a solution to this roadblock?
Well, I think the fundamental basis of that question is, I'd change the fundamental basis of that question is, you know, we are one system of public education in California. We are not 3 or 4 systems of public education in California. And I think the more that we see ourselves as different and distinct, it's easier to point the finger at different systems. As far as I'm concerned, we have one system of public education in California, and we have to work together because, one great example in Long Beach, California State University of Long Beach trains nearly 70% of the teachers in Long Beach Unified. It'd be difficult to point the finger back and forth, but that's easy to do. So the more that we can create feedback loops to inform colleges of education about what's going on with teachers, the more we can provide professional learning and development for teachers in community colleges and put an emphasis on the teaching aspect. There is no requirement to have taught when you come into the community college system, or for that matter, the University of California, the California State University system. Teaching is something that's acquired or that you learn along the way, where the emphasis in K-12 is on the teaching. I think the more that we can really continue to professionalize teaching in our community colleges, the better off our students will be. And I wholeheartedly think that our teachers, our faculty want to do the right thing and do hold themselves accountable. It's just the way that we've organized and what we're asking them to do sometimes makes that difficult.
Great, thank you. We have our first question from Twitter. And the question is, if I can pull it back up here. The question is about the Long Beach Promise. And how can communities match the success of the Long Beach Promise? And how might the Chancellor's office be supportive of that?
Well, let me take the last part of that question. The Chancellor's office can be supported by supporting communities that come together and incentivizing that kind of behavior, because the Long Beach College Promise is successful not because of Long Beach City College or because of Cal State Long Beach or because of Long Beach Unified. It's successful because of the community of Long Beach. Because there is a commitment to public education in Long Beach. There's a true support for public education in Long Beach. And that compels and creates an expectation of the leaders of the 3 systems of higher education, or 3 systems of public education in Long Beach, to do the right thing, which is to work together. And so I think there are great examples throughout California of that work happening. There's great work happening at Santa Ana College or Mount SAC or many of our colleges. We as a state and as a Chancellor's office, we need to support that kind of behavior, because I think we all agree and most of us know that the only way that we're going to improve public education is that bringing more people to the table to work together to support public education, because the work of public education doesn't just happen in the classroom. It happens throughout the entire community. So if the mayor and the city council of a community aren't helping the community college and the K-12 system create jobs, create internships, then students don't stay in that community. So it is a complete cycle of partnership. And I think that there is a window of opportunity in California where we can really make that a commitment across the state.
Did you have a question?
Do you have another one?
I have lots more questions for you, Eloy. One of the questions that we're getting both from folks in the room as well as on Twitter is about equity issues, and that there's a real gap in access and a real gap in completion for underrepresented minorities, Black students, Latino students. There's been some discussion about, how do we scale boutique programs like Puente and other programs that we know work, but are not at scale. What do you see as your top kind of innovations or interventions for really getting at closing those equity gaps?
Well, I go back to my comment about the 13 million Californians. You know, if you draw a circle around any community that has poor health outcomes, high unemployment or underemployment, violence, incarceration, there's also low education attainment. That's the equity issue that exists in our communities. And so, you know, we have to be honest about that. You know, however we got here, we're here, and we have a clear problem in our state. We cannot put Band-Aids on those problems. And I'm not saying that a program like Puente or some of the others that were implemented throughout the years are Band-Aids, but if you consider Long Beach City College, 85% of students at Long Beach City College are of some minority or another. And certainly most of them are low income. We are a majority minority institution. We need scalable solutions that address the real issues of equity, not for a select few that then we can pat ourselves on the back and say, okay, we've done enough. This is the state of California's issue. Whether you're in a rural community or in an urban community, we have people that are either completely or near completely disconnected from the economy. We cannot survive as a state much longer in this direction. That's the equity issue we need to fully embrace and really be honest about. So from there, we can have honest conversations about the data that we all have. All of our colleges, all of our K-12 districts, we have data now that tells us clearly who is not succeeding. The issue now comes, are we going to have the honest conversations in our communities, in our colleges, in our schools about what needs to change in order to change that equation? Because this is not an issue that these students can't succeed. It's that we are not having the courage to reorganize ourselves to ensure that they have a chance to succeed.
What do you see, Eloy, as the future of the Applied Baccalaureate program?
Well, I think the Applied Baccalaureate program is like any other program that comes into existence because there is an obvious need in the community. Now, going back to Larry's question about the master plan, I mean, if we were being responsive to the master plan, then we would be serving that need through the CSU or the UC. But for whatever reason, that need's not being served, and I think California Community Colleges can and should be in a position to serve that need. Now, having said that, we need to be very clear and careful that we are serving a real need in the community because and that we can't take away from some of the other needs of that community in order to serve that need. I'm hopeful that the pilots that are already off and running demonstrate the benefits of the baccalaureate program, community colleges, help us better understand where and how more programs should be launched. But I do think we need to be very careful in how we apply our resources and what we apply our resources for any new initiative. And before we do that, make sure that we're serving the fundamental, because we can have a baccalaureate program, but if kids aren't getting through college level English and college level math, what is the point? So I'm willing to continue to support the baccalaureate program, but at the same time, we need to ensure that we are serving the students that are in our community today and making sure that they have an opportunity to even get to that level.
We have a couple of questions coming in about transfer. And, you know, there's some comments about the fact that students are reaching the transfer milestone, but they haven't earned an associate degree. And we know that there's an associate degree for transfer program. We know that the number of degree earners is nearly doubling every year, so it's quite popular. I think we're up to over 69,000 associate degrees for transfer conferred since inception. What do you plan on doing to incentivize students into ADT programs or students earning that really important associate degree in the event that they do not complete the baccalaureate credential? Something to show for their work at community college.
Well, first of all, as I said before, we have to understand that a college credential is key to anybody getting into the workforce today. So understanding that, we need to emphasize a college credential in all of our colleges. Now, that college credential Could mean a certificate of completion, some sort of certificate that allows them to increase their wages, all the way toward an associate's degree, because I think the data is clear. The earnings that a student will gain by achieving some sort of college credential is significant and will continue to increase. So the associate's degree for transfer is a perfect opportunity to do that. And I think the students certainly have embraced it. I think in any college where it's been offered, students have flocked to the associate degree for transfer. So, we need to work within the Chancellor's office, with the legislature, with the CEOs in the system to find better ways to incentivize this kind of behavior. And I think the other thing that will happen, and I think it will happen in the not too distant future, is there will be a transfer pathway similar to the transfer pathway we have with CSU to the University of California. So students are going to vote with their feet, and I think we need to organize around that concept and make sure that they have a credential in their hand when they leave us.
Eloy, what are some of your plans to attract or coerce funding out of Sacramento for community colleges?
My plan is you all. You all are the advocates. You all need to make phone calls to the pro tem, to the speaker, to the governor, and continue to press for adequate funding for really the most vulnerable students in our communities. I will certainly carry that message day in and day out. In addition, the opportunity to do more with the money we have. We have some of the most complicated regulations in our California community colleges. And so, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd say our system is designed to get the results that we're getting. If that is not true, then we all need to work together to reduce the amount of regulation that exists and allow our colleges to better serve the students that need them the most. I think it can be done. It's been done now with the K-12 system through the local control funding formula. I think if we look at that experiment, we can apply it very quickly to the California community colleges, allow more autonomy at our local colleges, and more accountability at our local colleges. I think both can be done, and I think our students would be better served.
For the students that are here today and watching online, what's your advice to them?
Keep going to school. I mean, do not let anybody tell you that you cannot be successful. And if you come into any of our colleges and you don't get the results that you're looking for, spend time with your faculty, spend time with your department chairs, spend time with everyone you can in order to get where you want to be. I think it's certainly possible for every student to do that. Yes, our colleges and our system and our policymakers have put tremendous barriers in front of you. But you need to keep pushing through those barriers and keep showing us the reason why we need to continue to lower those barriers. So, we need more students to have the kind of success that we want them to have in order for our state to be the great state that it was for me, and that hopefully it'll be for my kids and their kids.
Thank you. With that, we're going to conclude our discussion. Let's give Larry and Eloy a big round of applause.
Thank you.